For step 2, you're going to pin and sew the rise or the crotch of your boxers or pajama pants. So put your fabric, one leg good side up, put the other on top, good side down, so you'll always have good against good, and pin one end of this curved seam, forcing the corners to meet, and then pin the other end again, forcing those corners to meet. Then with a partner, have someone hold this for you and pull it a bit tight. It's easier to pin if things are tight. And then you're going to pin all these edges together. When you finish pinning, you should have about a dozen pins in the rise of your boxers or pajama pants. And now, because you're going to sew a curve, it is easier if you draw the line first. So using tailoring chalk, a color that will show, you can either eyeball it or measure it or just spot check it. You're going to draw a line 1.5 centimeters or 15 millimeters from the edge of the fabric, from the edge of the serging. And then bring that to your machine for sewing. So line that fabric up against the 15, put the foot down, remove that pin, put the needle down, sew a stitch or two, reverse it back to the edge of the fabric, and then again allow the machine to pull the fabric, your hands to guide it, stop and take out pins just before you get to it, and do your best to keep the edge of the fabric against the 15, no matter the shape. As you approach the curve, you need to put a little more pressure on the fabric to make it behave, to make it stay against the 15. You may want to slow down. You'll have a little more control to sew the curve if you sew more slowly. When you get close to the middle, just stop, check and make sure that the seam is flat on the top and bottom. Take that pin out, try to hold it flat. You want that seam to stay flat when you sew it and not get bunched up. And then just continue sewing that curve all the way till you get to the top and then reverse. So I finished sewing the first seam, the curved seam, at the rise of the boxers, and now I'm going to sew a second one because curves are a bit of a stress area, crotches, and they tend to rip more easily. So I line the fabric up a little bit away from the 15, put the foot down, needle down, and now I'm going to sew just a few millimeters away from my original stitching line. I'm going to try to have two lines sewn together, very close together, so that it's stronger. So just sew it in the same manner, and when you're finished, you should have two lines sewn very close together. Then you bring it to the steamer for pressing. And now I'm going to flatten that seam that I just sewed and then press it open. So I'll put it wrong side up and I'll start at the top, open that first straight flat seam with my fingers, press it open and flat, then flip it around and do the other straight side because the curve is really only at the middle. So flatten that. And then, using the tailoring ham, I'm going to put the curve on because it's easier to press a curve on a curve. You're less likely to get creases and wrinkles on the rest of your fabric. So open it with your fingers. And it's a little awkward, but do the best you can. Get that seam pressed, open and flat. First on the wrong side, and then flip it over and press it on the right side. And then you can see also more clearly whether you do indeed have any wrinkles, if you've gotten any creases, and you can press them out. And then press the straight side. And the reason it was important to sew those two lines really close together is that it makes it much easier to press now. If you had pressed them, or if you had sewn them far apart, it would be much harder to press. It would be better to sew the line on top of each other than far away. So make sure when you're all done, everything is pressed flat and open on both sides and looks very professional.